for our sauce are brought in from Italy. So we import our tomatoes, we hand crush them in-house, we add our own spices and our own things to them so that we make sure that it is, again, consistent. We have recipes for all of it so that you go to Nashville, you go to Salem, hopefully you go to the next locations. They're all consistently created.
You hear that, Dave Portnoy? Tomatoes from Italy, dude. Thank you for joining us with the Maguire Enterprise Podcast. We have a really special guest with us today. We've got Rick Carvalho from Oakcraft Pizza, probably one of my favorite pizza shops in New England, I would say. It by far beats any local pizza shop that I've ever been to, in my opinion. And we can talk about that for sure. I'm sure we'll chat a lot about that. But Rick Carvalho lives in New Hampshire, has been an entrepreneur for a while, worked in the Dunkin' Donuts franchise space. And so we're just like super excited to have him here, talk about his franchise, talk about becoming a franchisor on that side. And you're married with 4 beautiful kids.
That's right.
What are their ages? 6 down to...
Yeah, 5, 4, 2, and almost 6 months.
Man.
So we're busy.
That's a full business right there.
That's a business in and of itself. So family man, your parents obviously were in Dunkin' Donuts as well. But tell us a little bit more if you'd like. First of all, tell us about Oakcraft. Where can people find the website? Where can people get in touch with you? And then if there's anything else you want to just add into there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Oakcraft Pizza is our brand. We're in Nashua and Salem, New Hampshire, and we're looking to grow through franchising and opportunities for other people to take advantage of some of the branding and the things that we've done that have helped us have some success. And, we're on Instagram, TikTok at Oakcraft Pizza, and we'll kind of dive into a little bit more of the franchising and all that. But, we have a franchising at oakcraftpizza.com if there's interest at some point. But, most importantly, my wife Taylor and I live in New Hampshire. We have 4 beautiful children. She is a full-time, 3 times full-time, 4 times full-time mom.
24/7.
And I got into the, franchising business and entrepreneurial world early by learning from my parents. So my parents were both born in Portugal. They came over here. My grandfather was not the original owner, but was an owner of the original Dunkin' Donuts in Quincy, Massachusetts. My uncles now own it.
And that was the original.
The original. And so...
Boston definitely runs on Dunkin' for sure.
For sure. So... When you say it's entrepreneurship or, business is in the blood, it absolutely is multi-generationally. Mm-hmm. And so my dad kind of grew up doing that with his dad, his brothers. He was one of 5, so, they all got into it. Now my uncles are in it. My aunts married people who are in it. So we go to it's funny because for so many years, we were in it as well. And we go to a family party, and it's a Dunkin' Donuts convention, basically.
Everybody's swapping.
It's crazy, yeah. Everybody's just experiencing highs and lows and sharing, and which actually is funny because that it's something I think you guys talk a lot about, but just having that kind of bond and that unity, not feeling lonely in those moments that are tough. So that's kind of how I grew up, and jumped into it when I turned 14. That was my birthday gift when I turned 14 was a uniform to go to work. And it was all I wanted, to be completely honest with you. And I started working and did that. Went to college, got my MBA eventually at Riviera University. But it was almost like one of those things that I went to college because I wanted to play soccer.
Oh, okay.
And I love soccer. And so I went to college, played that dream, of professional sports obviously fades.
Portugal blood didn't rise enough.
On the
side. Maybe people weren't paying enough attention.
TikTok did not exist.
Exactly. I needed a highlight film. But anyway, so as that kind of faded, I came back to the family business and kind of took that into starting something new once it was time for my dad to kind of step down, which was a tough time, and could probably be a podcast all on its own on how that kind of emotional decision came to be. And once that came down, my wife and I had always had this inkling to do pizza. So we pursued that more heavily.
Well, we'd love to get Mr. Carvalho on if he's interested. So if he's listening, maybe we just throw a plug in there. I'm all about throwing the plug. But I want to back up for a quick second. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about college. And this is a group that's very passionate about that topic. So knowing what you know now, so obviously you said you really wanted for soccer, obviously, right? Yep. And we digress maybe a little bit from business, but I think this is important if there's young people listening. Like, I think we're in a generation and in a world where college isn't always a necessity. So your take back then to your take now, has it changed at all? Like with your young kids growing up, do you think you'll be like, hey, I really think you should go do this? Or, hey, entrepreneurship is a good path as well? Where do you kind of see that?
So for me, it was interesting growing up because my family were first generation Portuguese immigrants who never had the opportunity. Neither of my parents graduated high school. So for that opportunity to be there to go to college, we were the first. My sister, who was, a year older than me, was the first in a generation to go to an American college. I mean, she was the first person in our family to ever do that. So it was a big deal. Yeah. So for me, it was never as much of a priority, but there was certainly societal pressure to go. Yeah. There was certainly familial pressure to go to some extent. And I think I learned a lot, but it was all social. And I don't think it was in the classroom, which was beneficial, was helpful. But am I in a different place today than I would be if I hadn't gone? I think it's
hard to quantify.
It's hard to quantify that. And that's a crazy thing to say because what's the price of college? At the time when I went, which was almost 20 years ago now, it was $42,000 a year. So, you can't quantify $160,000 out of your pocket, then you got to figure out what works for you. But I think at the end of the day, that college or no college, you're always going to be driven by who you are. So, so true. You're going to take some stuff from it, and you're also going to leave some stuff behind, and it's going to kind of work itself out.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting the way, we think about it too now. Like I got my bachelor's degree, but I don't know if I would ever do more than that. You know what I mean? Just knowing the degree that I feel like we've learned going through business, it's like 10x, college in my opinion now. And it's also changed, and the price you're saying too is like it's skyrocketed.
I think the other piece to it is the way that pay scale has changed. So I know in my business, we have 2 locations, and I have people who I have offered $90,000 a year to run 2 potentially, if we grow to a 3rd store, regional type managers. And I have friends who are in their 30s who went to college, who have student loans, who aren't making that kind of money. Right. So you have to balance out what makes sense for you, what, and what drives you.
And the market demand, like that. Business owners are looking for really talented people that are multifaceted. You're looking for regional. We're looking for more type individuals like that. But that's a tough position to fill, but it's also worth a lot of money. Right. So I think people's skills, and when you're going to college, if you want to, think about like, what does the marketplace demand and what is coming in the future? And business skills are worth a lot of money. Right. So, you could pay someone $100,000. I mean, talking to what's his name, the franchisee, Corey, right down south.
Yeah, he's paying a lot more than $100,000.
He pays a hefty pay, but that's a very valuable skill. So I think when you're thinking about college, think about what you're trying to go for and learn.
For me, it's about experience. I mean, what I know now, the experience that I've got from being in this industry for 14, 15, 16 years now, you can't really get that from sitting in a classroom.
You mean a professor can't teach you that?
Yeah, of course. Like, you're going to learn a lot. For sure. But like when I'm looking at somebody to hire to run one of our stores, like I'm looking at what they had for experience. I'm not looking at what they went to school for. Like what a textbook. Like I want somebody that's been in there, has managed all sorts of people, knows how to like bring the atmosphere and a great atmosphere to a store. And I want somebody that has experience, and you're not getting that from a classroom. So I am doing well, and I have just a ton of experience. And I've been doing this for so long that I can go into pretty much any company now and be a manager, lead a team, like run a store, like all of that stuff will come easy to me because I've been doing it for so long.
And I think it's not industry specific either.
I agree. No,
I think it's very transferable to food industry, to sporting industry, to even, computer, like tech industry, whatever. Like you learn those management skills, they're transferable, I think, to a lot of stuff. So we digress a little bit, but I think that's just interesting. Number one, that's a huge accomplishment, especially to be part of the first generation to finish that. Like that's incredible. I'm sure your parents are super proud.
Yeah, they're proud.
Or maybe your sister beat you too.
No, my sister beat me too. By the time I got there, it was like, here's your silver medal.
You're good.
I hope you enjoy it. But
get out of the house.
But no, it was cool. But again, it's one of those things. I think everybody's got their own kind of feeling on it. For me, it's the value is the person creates the value. The value is not in the classroom. Yeah. So you have to figure out which type of person you are.
I just want to ask, because you said you started to work at 14 years old, and that's really unique, I think, now. Like what did you learn from 14 to 18 years old being in the business and starting so young? You said you were eager to get into it too, which is also pretty rare at 14 wanting to do that. So tell us a little bit about that season of, 4 years.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents were amazing parents. They taught us a lot about money. They taught us a lot about saving. They taught us a lot about taking care of what you have so you don't need to run around trying to find more of it every day. So when I turned 14, I was responsible for like small things, that I would pay for, right? But I was quite privileged as well. So it's not like, but I wanted to get to work so that I could, buy the video game, or I wanted to get to work so I could, have money to go to the movie or whatever it was. And I, from day one, started saving money in my bank account.
Nice.
With the focus of, buy a house, buy, whatever.
Right on.
So literally
That's a big focus at 14.
From day one, it was you get your tips, your paycheck goes in the bank, and that rolls and rolls and rolls over the course of the next however many years. But what did I learn by working in the store every day was hard work. Yeah. And there is never going to be a substitute for hard work. You can do whatever else you want. Yeah. If you don't work hard, and it doesn't always have to be physical, but smarter, whatever that is. Yeah. But if you don't work hard, you're gonna have a harder time long term. So that was the number one thing I think that I took from that period of my life was work hard so you can enjoy the time outside of that.
And did they have you participating like in all sorts of roles? Or were you not limited? You were limited because you were 14, or was it kind of like
manager Rick here at 14? Everybody better listen up.
No, it was not. I was not manager or anything like that. But it was funny because I would never tell people I was the owner's son. Yeah, for people would naturally find out. But there were a couple times when I'd see somebody hand something over the counter to a friend or something. I'd be like, you better ring that in.
That's awesome.
Because it is what it is,
No, let's keep an eye on the business.
So and that was just that was how we operated. It was great. But hard work. Yeah, that's all I can say.
So bouncing off of that a little bit, walk us through, you become 18, 19. So did you stop working and go to school? You just did school full time, or did you do a little bit of work as well?
And no. So I would always work when I was home. So my first year I went to upstate New York to a school called Hobart College. And so actually I went up there, played soccer in the fall. As soon as the fall soccer season was over, I applied at Polo Ralph Lauren because there was a outlet down the street, and I wanted to make some more money. Nice. And so I went and applied and, picked up some hours when I could and came back, winter breaks, summer, all that. I would work. And then I transferred to Stonehill College in Easton, Mass after my freshman year. And that made it a little easier to come home and work. So anytime if, I wanted to work or wanted to come home for a weekend or knew I was coming home, I would come home and get on the schedule. And By the time my senior year, I was 21 during my senior year. All those checks that I had been saving up, at the time it was 2008 I graduated in 2009. So you can probably remember that the real estate situation was not amazing if you were trying to sell a house, but if you're trying to buy a house, it was pretty darn
It was
good.
a good time, yeah.
So because I had saved up money for all those years, I was in the process of designing, picking out carpet and things on a house in Merrimack, New Hampshire during my final semester of my undergraduate
Good for you.
in college.
Hold on, people. Listen up. Save your money and don't go spend it on crap. So that way you can have the opportunity to buy a house when it's time. Like 2024, I think, is going to be a big year. So anyway, sorry to digress.
No,
but
it's fine. So yeah, so I was working, as much as I could, especially during that final year, because I wanted to make sure I, had the opportunity. And by the way, when I started and when I was working, I wasn't making more because I was the owner's son. I was making $7 an hour. Yeah. I was making as I got to 18, so I got to make $8 an hour. It wasn't like, oh, I'm making $30 an hour because I'm the owner's son. I was making what everybody else was making based on what I was worth.
So just because you were family doesn't mean you were making any more than anyone else.
And I don't know if you heard it, but Rick said he was making what he was worth. And that is a big, big point I think we all need to think about for a minute. Yep. Because your value, you determine your value, right? Rick obviously poured himself into education, an MBA, learning, starting work at 14 years old. So he has a lot of value, and the more value you create, the more money you're going to make. The marketplace demands that, right? So that's awesome you said that, because.
Okay, so we're getting to the house. Senior year, you graduate.
Yep.
You got the house.
Got the house. Took a job at WB Mason selling paper.
Okay.
And I went out on the road for 4 or 5 days and didn't mind the actual job, right? You go in your car, you drive to a nail salon. Hey, you guys use receipt paper. Do you need receipt paper? Okay, great. Can I sell you a case? Oh, we already used someone. Yes, you can sell me one. Whatever.
Yeah.
Schmooze a little, talk to somebody,
Get your nails done.
Get your nails done, Wait, were you there?
So it was during your 30-minute break.
Yeah.
So off the clock.
Anyway, going to all these different office buildings, everything. And after like 4 or 5 days, after work, I was working till like 9 p.m., filing all, writing down in Excel who I visited today, their phone numbers, all the contact information. I'd get up at 5 a.m. I'd be the first one in the office. My boss would be, emailing me 7 times a day saying, what's your plan for the day? What are you doing today? All this stuff. And so I looked at my dad and I said, hey, you got 4 stores. Do you need just like a GM to come in and just, oversee the 4 locations? And he was like, I really want you to, work in this other job. I want you to have the experience of corporate America, because what we do in the restaurant industry is very, very hard. I don't want you to get stuck and feel like, you can't get out of it. And I was like, I really don't care. I don't want to do this with somebody else. I want to do this with you and for myself in some level, right? Because it's a family business. So I went back into that, and then I part-time did my MBA down the street at Riviera University, because we were right here in Nashua when we were doing where we had our Dunkin' Donuts locations. And I just continued to work there for.
So how long? All right, so let's so did you end up partnering or owning some of the Dunkins as well, or no?
So I had a percentage just as almost more of a protection from the franchisor to make sure that if something ever were to happen with my dad, that we were able to keep the business in our family without question. It was more of a protection.
Awesome. So then what turned into, let's turn into pizza. So your Dunkins, you've got the 4 locations, you're obviously working closely with your dad, and bam, you just realized, like the rest of us here, that pizza in New England sucks. No offense, pizza people in New England, but it's not great, in my opinion. So like what happens? What flourishes? You're like, how do we make this concept, or where does that come from?
Right. So my mindset was always to have growth, kind of second revenue stream, different brands that we were working with. So we looked into originally franchising different brands in the area, and our relationship with Dunkin', being that they are so large, was, and we only had 4 locations. On either side of us, we had somebody who had 200 locations and 300 locations. So we were sandwiched in. So the opportunity to grow was few and far between.
Yeah, not
Right.
And in fact, other franchisees started kind of impeding on our space. So we had a store that went up that took about 40% of one of our locations' revenue.
That was
Long
probably a
story
good conversation
That was
with the friends.
one of the worst. So you have to come up with a plan, right? If you sit still and you know sit in the pond and wait to die, then you're going to die. So my wife and I always had this idea of having a secondary brand, kind of creating our own brand, so that we would have a little bit more autonomy, a little more ability. And if I'm being very honest, even at that time when we were creating the brand and the idea of the brand, we wanted to create an opportunity for potential franchisees to come in and have an experience that was better than the one that we had. So we decided that pizza, being that Dunkin' is a mostly morning business, I didn't really know how to flip a burger that well, and didn't want to get into that game with McDonald's and Five Guys and all of that. I decided that pizza was the avenue we wanted to take. There's a ton of Greek style pizza around here, and I will say that things have gotten a lot better in the last 5 years even.
There you go, James. Things are getting better.
My bad. I apologize.
And so there's a lot of great pizza that you can get in the area, but we did see that there was probably an opportunity for something better, different, and try to create something with what skills I already had. To turn that into, instead of making coffee and donuts, turn that into pizza. So I just started taking a deep dive, listening to podcasts on YouTube, Googling obsessively. And I found a class basically that I could take in New York. So in 2019, I went down to New York, Staten Island, and essentially worked in a restaurant for a week. So it's this kind of program where you pay to go down, you're going to learn everything. You work in that restaurant, and they teach you how to make dough, different ways to do sauce, all that stuff. So I spent the money to go down there to learn that.
Was this a specific, because obviously the type of dough and pizza you make is a thinner crust. Was that the training and teaching? Was this just like all sorts of pizza
So
concepts?
This one was one-on-one New York style pizza dough. And if you wanted to dive into other stuff, it was not really their expertise, but they knew enough to show you. But I didn't even have interest in that. I just said, I want to do one thing. I want to do it really well. And I want to focus on what we can do to bring a good product to the area and focus on doing that. So 2019, I went down there.
How long was that program?
Just a week. Just a week.
Just a week. And you believe that investing in yourself is very important.
Investing in yourself is the best investment you can make.
Just want to make sure we pull that out of him, right? Investing in yourself is super, super important.
Yes.
So you were doing that all while still managing Dunkin's, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So extra time, extra research, extra late nights, like you're not just coming home from work and sleeping on the couch.
There has never been in me a 9 to 5 sit on the couch. I used to run soccer camps and coach the high school soccer team for many years. I always was trying to find ways to supplement, create another revenue stream, create another opportunity, see what might explode that I never expected to. And if you open the door, you never know where that door kind of pushes and, where your life could take you. So that was kind of a focus. And I had sleepless nights because I started feeling excited about something. And that is the best kind of sleepless night. Not like the one I got last night where my 2-year-old wouldn't sleep until 6 a.m. But
those nights are great.
So that started stirring my excitement. And, I was also getting to a point where it was important for me to create something of my own away from kind of my family's experience and success. And so we planned that.
Yeah.
And then we took a little time and figured out how we were going to create that.
So did you perfect your own recipe then for the dough? Like, did you create from what you learned at that class, that course? Did you then come home and say, okay, now I know how to do dough. Here's how I want to make it different.
Right. So I took their essential recipe,
Yep.
their base, right?
Mhm.
And I said, okay, well, maybe if we add a little more of this, or if we give it a little more time, right? Or if we create,
Don't give any secrets away now.
yeah.
Don't give
Right,
any
you
secrets
look at
away.
the temperature of the dough. You look at the fermentation time. You look at, is there a different flour that gives me a slightly higher or lower gluten content that gives me a different result? Came home, I bought one of those little mini ovens, played with that. A backyard, it's called a rock box. It's the one I choose. Everybody likes a Uni's or the rock box or whatever it is.
Jason knows.
Yep.
Nice,
I want a
yeah.
Nuni.
Yeah.
They're cool.
They're cool.
What-
They're cool. I just like the
Is it
style
like
of
a-
pizza that it makes.
Is it like a grill, but it's a
It's
brick
like
oven type?
yeah, it looks like a small like brick oven looking thing.
That's legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're really cool. So start playing with that. I went out to Las Vegas to the Pizza Expo. So every year they do a Pizza Expo. I've kind of committed to doing that now almost every year because I think it's important just to be in the industry
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see what's new and exciting.
Test that out. Do they serve pizza there?
It's more like
Equipment.
if you're kind of geeking out on the equipment and
Okay.
kind of
taste
different
testing.
styles and all
Do a lot
that.
of
There's a
taste
ton of taste
testing.
testing, to
Is
be
there?
fair.
Okay.
But it's really,
That'd be funny.
not really.
We're walking by Rick one day. Rick, what are you guys doing here?
It's a great pizza place right here.
We would actually probably just put a T-shirt on and rally for you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'd be like your promo team.
I appreciate that.
So you ended up going out there.
So I went out there.
Yep.
It's a 3-day event,
Mhm.
So again, immerse yourself, learn what are the best ovens, what are the best, mixers, what are the best equipment that can help you to
Yeah.
perform and create the best product over and over again consistently. So that was a huge value. And then it was time to figure out when is it time to launch this and take the next steps. I had a conversation again with my family, and
Yeah.
it was kind of, my dad was like, you know what, honestly, I think I'm going to step out of the business.
Mm.
So I said, okay, well, let's wait until that's done
Yep.
and consider it. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how did that change your approach, or how did that affect
Yeah, so we
your process?
sold the business of the Dunkin' Donuts business during COVID. So May 2020, the business got sold.
Wow, I can't believe it sold during the rise of that. That's
I'm sorry, August 2020.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was under agreement during May and sold in August, sorry. So it was funny because during the first couple months of COVID, so the first 2 weeks, it was like awful. And then the next couple months, if you had a drive-through,
Oh yeah,
you couldn't keep
you
up.
crushed it. You
Right.
killed
So
it.
we were, setting records at our drive-through location and setting,
Negative
problems
records.
at the other locations.
Yeah.
But overall, the network that we had of our 4 locations were in good health. And so there was an opportunity to sell those. And so
That's great.
That-
So that happened.
So
And that was 2020.
August
And then so as soon as that happened, really the juices started going probably full speed. Let's start getting this concept. So what does that look like starting Oakcraft? Where did you come up with the name? How'd you figure out kind of the logo and the design? Was this just
build out.
all you and your wife? Because I'm thinking about trying to talk to like the entrepreneur that maybe doesn't want to do a franchise potentially, right? Obviously, we love franchise. We think it's an incredible model. There's obviously a model that's already been created, and you can kind of just buy into that. But for somebody who maybe wants to how do you kind of come up with some of those things and kind of get that started?
yeah, we went online and just started looking at logo design, logo creator, all those things. So we'd make these, rinky dink 30-second, I forget what the name of the first place we were going to call it, was Sauced. I think that was the original name, was Sauced.
Get sauced.
And then
Get
I was like,
sauced.
yeah, I don't like that connotation, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't love that connotation. So I was like, okay. And then, you start looking at USPTO, so the trademarking, and you're like, okay, that's not available. This is not available. So I ended up hiring a company that would help me with naming, logo designing, My wife's an interior designer by trade,
cool.
so she
Yeah, the stores look great.
had
Yeah.
a vision. Thank
Taylor,
you very much.
Taylor, right?
Taylor,
Taylor, excellent job.
I like them.
Yep.
Taylor's
Like how it
awesome.
looks.
So, she took care of kind of giving a vision board of what we wanted the brand to look like, feel like, smell like. And we worked with a company to create that. So that was really the whole thing. And they were kind of soup to nuts. They're actually no longer doing it. They've kind of transformed into a different business. Their partners kind of split up and they're doing different things now. But all the creative came from them originally. So it was super helpful to have that brand.
So you'd almost kind of like recommend when you start coming up with these ideas, if you're not getting into a franchise, that you just find the right people. Would you say it's worth spending the money, investing to get the product right? Because and I'm sure you've had changes, but going to your first store in Nashua North or Amherst Street, I don't feel like I remember you fixing, at least to the public eye, I don't remember you like changing any walls or like making any, like you made a ton of mistakes from like your build out. You know what I'm saying? Obviously they're a little bit different in the two stores, but do you think that's mainly because you invested in the right people to create that concept?
Yes, I would say investing in the right people. And I think there's a time and place for it, right? So if you see an old spot that is going to create, you're going to go do something in an old pizza shop just for the sake of convenience to talk about, and you want to just keep it simple and you know write on the wall what your menu is and do that, then great. That's an option. You have to look at your budget. You have to look at what your long-term vision is. So for me and for Taylor, our long-term vision was never one location. Sit here and hope that customers come. Create a brand that isn't a brand, it's just a shop.
Right.
So our goal was always a brand, bigger, growth,
makes sense,
have opportunities. So for us, it was more important to spend that money up front, make sure that everything
do it right the first time,
could be done right the first time, so that it could be replicated the second time. Because you don't want to spend that money twice also.
That's a good point.
So different strokes for different folks, I guess.
So it kind of comes back to your goals, right?
Your plan.
What do you want 5 years down the road? And we could say it goes back even to when you're in high school and in your college. What's your plan? What's your goal? Like, do you know what you want to do when you're out of college? Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't go to college. But same thing with business. What do you want that first business to look like? And I'll say I think we made some of those mistakes in the beginning of Crumbles. Like, what's our exit strategy? When do we want to end? How many do we want to grow? We knew we wanted to grow, but how many do we want to grow? When do we want to stop? And I think it's important that you at least cast a vision out there of what you're maybe looking to do. Because then you don't always nail it on the first try. I'm sure there's plenty of things you changed on the second one. But from the outside view, the first store looks fantastic. And it's super great concept. Like, I remember walking in the first time, I'm like, whoa, who designed this? This
this does not belong in New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, absolutely.
It
belongs in the entire country,
right?
If we're going to be honest, like, it's that type of a look. Most pizza shops you go into around here is like your checkered floor, and then you got a couple booths.
There's nothing wrong with that. But.
No, of course, but if you just want one shop,
right?
But if you want a brand, I love that you said that. It's that goal of what do you want the future to be, right? And expanding that. So,
what about competition? When you were first getting into this, did you kind of research the competition in the area? Like, obviously with pizza, there's just so many pizza places all around that competition probably is looked at maybe a little less than like a cookie shop.
Right.
There's not a lot of cookie shops around, so we're probably a little bit more hesitant when it comes to that, than pizza. But I know there's the place called Blaze in the Pheasant Lane Mall. That's a pretty similar concept. I think O'Craft's 10 times better in my opinion. I've been to Blaze and I'll never go back because O'Craft's back, because I like O'Craft much better. But what kind of competition did you do research on any of that stuff?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the competition is pizza, and then it's just any other lunch or dinner option.
Right.
So
a lot of competition.
Just on Amherst Street in Nashua, there were 7 or 8 pizza options.
Wow.
Okay.
In Salem on Broadway, there are, I honestly don't even know the number, but there's quite a few.
Yeah.
So our goal was to focus on being really good at it.
Okay.
If we're really good at it, the people will come.
Yeah.
If we create something slightly different, right? So we're going to cook you a pizza built your way in 3 minutes that you can enjoy hot in store, take home, whatever you want to do. They're all 12 inches. So, you know, some guys like us may not want to share them. I've never shared one in my life.
I do
if
too.
my wife touches mine, it is game over.
Sorry, Taylor.
That is a tough spot.
Sorry,
to be in. She'll laugh at that point because it's a contentious moment sometimes when I bring home a pizza and I'm like, why didn't you tell me you wanted one?
She's gonna say, why didn't you ask?
Yep. You texted me 5 minutes too late. I was already on the road. Yeah. So anyway, but we try to differentiate ourselves by even within the same industry or in the same product. I use that loosely because they're all obviously every pizza is going to be slightly different. Every cookie's going to be slightly different.
Right, of course.
That we can still differentiate ourselves enough that we're a good option for everyone. And there might be there's a time and a place for Domino's, right? At 1 a.m.
Yeah,
that's true. You had a late night and you just want something to throw down
to fill the
Great.
stomach.
No problem. And then there's a time and a place for Oakcraft, and there's going to be a time and a place for everything. So we just hope that we can continue to.
Yeah. What makes Oakcraft unique? Like, what would you say the 3 to 5 things are? Like, this is our specialty. This is our niche in the pizza space.
So number one, I think our biggest thing is that we make our pizzas. Each individual pizza is made and created, handmade right in front of you in 3 minutes.
Okay.
So you come in for lunch. And oftentimes you go to a lot of places that can have a slice that you can reheat and all that. It's not, it's a different experience. And honestly, it takes 3 to 4 minutes to get your slice out of the oven into you.
You can do a whole pizza in 3 minutes.
Right. And so instead of getting a $5 or $6 slice of pizza, you can get a whole pizza for yourself that you probably gonna have a little leftovers. But that's our number one thing, right? Number two is all our dough's made in-house.
Okay.
Every day. It ferments for 48 to 72 hours because we find that that's when it's at its absolute best. So we make sure that our dough is at the highest quality. That's a super important piece. If you're going to do anything, do it at the highest quality that you know how to do it at. Our tomatoes for our sauce are brought in from Italy. So we import our tomatoes. We hand crush them in-house. We add our own spices and our own things to them so that we make sure that it is, again, consistent. We have recipes for all of it so that you go to Nashville, you go to Salem, hopefully you go to the next locations. They're all consistently created.
You hear that, Dave Portnoy? Tomatoes from Italy, dude.
So, those are a few of the things. And we always want to be a place where people can grab a quick pizza and feel like they are going to get exactly what they want, not what the group wants. I've just over the years, you go to pizza parties, you go to events, and it's like, what do you like on your pizza? Oh, I don't like, I love anchovies. I hate pepperoni. Oh, I'm, vegan, so I don't eat certain things. All right. Well, just come to us. Everybody get your own pizza. Everybody enjoy each other's company because that's why you're getting together in the first place rather than worrying about who eats what pizza.
So it's fresh, it's custom, it's quick.
I think the quick part is I was there Monday, obviously you saw, and pretty much there every time I'm in town at least.
I told him yesterday, dude, I wish there was an Oakcraft in Manchester because we were coming back from Vermont.
Yeah, we would have
I would have totally bought three pizzas.
So I was there, and Monday night, 5, 6 o'clock, I got in, placed my order. Yeah, it was probably 3 minutes, and as soon as I got out of the line, there was probably another 5 or 6 people behind me. I'm like, whoa, this place is popping. So, and that was in the Salem location. But how do you feel now that you've got 2 locations? So not necessarily talking about the franchisor side yet. As you and your wife were building this, talk a little bit about the support of Taylor. And I don't know how deep you want to go into that, but we've all got wives or fiancés at this point, and so not having them on the same page or super supportive can be really challenging. I know there's a lot of business people out there that have this similar struggle, right? They're wired for business. They're probably workaholics, like a lot of us are sometimes. And they how do I get my wife on board? Or what are some of those challenges that they may be able to work towards fixing or communicating to their wife. It sounds
Right,
like Taylor was
spouse.
100% on board the whole time.
Yeah, Taylor's an amazing partner. And I also have a unique background with it because before we got married, I worked every day.
Right.
So I worked
DNA.
7 days a week. It was what it was. I never thought about taking days off. I didn't think that was an option. I didn't consider that. I didn't even necessarily know that I wanted that.
Right.
We need to clone Rick. We need to clone
You know it
Rick.
existed, but it started with your grandparents and your parents, right? I mean, it started
Right.
100 years ago or 80 years ago.
Exactly. So she always knew me as somebody who worked 7 days a week. She always knew me as somebody who was very serious about business. So we met at Stonehill College when she was 18, I was 19. It was literally her first day on campus. I had been there for soccer for a couple of weeks. But we became very good friends. We never dated for 10 years. And so when we kind of circled back, we ended up dating. And our first date, we said, what are your priorities in life? What are yours? Because we were 28, 29 at the time. We were ready to be serious. 27, 28, I think. And it was like, okay, I want to get married. I want to have a family. I want to have at least, for me, it was 2 kids. For her, I think she said 5, which... That's scary.
You're at 4 right now.
4, so
That was a scary
I think we're stopping here. But regardless, I said to her, it's important that I'm in this family business and I want to continue being in this family business. So we got married on July 16th of 2016. And July 16th of 2016 was my first day off in 2016.
Wow.
Not my first Saturday off, not my first Sunday off. It was my first day off.
Wow.
So I worked 180 straight days or whatever it was because that's how I was wired, and she understood that that's what was important. So when we went into this new venture, she understood what it takes to make it work. And she's a rock star, so I can't complain at all. Luckily, I have a little more time to do a little more and help a little more than I did. A month after we opened the first location, my 3rd child was born.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, a month after we opened the 4th location, our second location, our 4th child was born. On the day that my 3rd child was born, I worked the dinner shift. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not ashamed of that. It just was the necessity. And so she's always understood that we need to prioritize in moments.
Yeah.
And sometimes the priority is family. And we've been able to carve out a really great time to enjoy that and create that space for the kids and for us to, continue to have a healthy relationship. But sometimes the priority is making sure that the family has money to enjoy those moments.
Yeah.
Totally.
And, so she's amazing. She's done great. It is the most important partner you'll ever have. I don't care if you have a business partner. I don't care what you have. The most important business partner you'll ever have is your wife, even if she's not working in the business. There's no question about it.
That's huge. I totally agree with that. And there is a balance. And I hate using the word balance, but there's a push and a pull. And a lot of times the business is the second marriage that you do have to give it attention or it will die.
Yep.
Yeah.
These days, especially depending on what state you do business in, let's just say it's like a couple wives.
Business.
So be careful when you're picking which state you want to do business in, people. Okay.
I think
It's good too. Like if you're getting into business, it's having those like expectations that it's a big commitment. And eventually, if we can get there, we hope to get there. We'll get more time and we'll be able to spend time working on certain things, but not be everything to everybody, right? But I think it is important to realize like getting into business is a massive, you did it, you're still doing it, but working 7 days a week, some people are like, dude, you're insane. Like I would never do that, right? So it takes a certain person to want to do that. You obviously enjoy it, right? Like if you didn't enjoy it, you'd be out, by now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just think it's good to emphasize that. But I think I've heard a lot of conversations too about like glorifying workaholic, like being a workaholic and glorifying it, right? You're not saying that. And I don't think any of us are saying like you should just work 24/7 for your entire life. But there are seasons, and seasons can be 5 years, can be 10 years, where you're in it for a long time, So But yeah, that I've struggled with that a little bit of just like always working, you know.
Well, I think when your kind of mindset has always been that you fall back to that, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're hyper aware of everything going on in the business,
Yeah.
and you want that interaction with that customer to be perfect, and you know that employee's a new employee, and you have access to your cameras on your phone, and you have right.
Yeah, I've
and
never
you can't
done that.
physically be there and say, hey, why don't you also get
The
the
door.
cheesy bread,
Yeah, whatever,
like
yeah.
whatever, right? Like
Right.
upsell, and you start to lose your mind. You're like, is that pizza cooked exactly right? I mean, you can lose your mind quickly. But the thing that is important that you guys are saying is like, when I say I work 7 days a week, that was a different phase. Right now, there are weeks when I will work 7 days, and there are weeks when I work 2 days.
Right.
And there are weeks when I'll check in on 6 days, but I might be there for a half hour. I might be there for half a day. It just depends on the needs of the business and who you have and the strong people that you have to help support you. And hopefully you have them, and then your life is a little easier.
So I want to transition a little bit to the franchisor side. So that's like, I know nothing about that space. We know that the franchisor we have is great. We'll just leave it at they're good. They have their pain points and like everybody will. But how was it like seeing that come to fruition? You knew when you first started, we want to become a franchisor. We want to get this out into the world if we can. What was that look like? Maybe just speed us through, like, so there's going to be paperwork, there's going to be lawyers, there's going to be more research. And like, where are you at now? How's that kind of going?
Right. So it was always our goal to franchise. So that was pretty straightforward. So as soon as I was looking at opening my first store, I was looking into what does it look like to create the franchise model and business. As I got to a point, I basically found a team that helped me create the system, not the system in store, but essentially all the FDD, the disclosure documents, the lawyers that needed help to kind of sort out all of the back office stuff, the
lawyers.
trademarking, putting certain things in place, making sure that my POS system, I just went through a kind of a changeover in POS systems because the access to certain reports and what can be done or can't be done on certain systems is easier or less easy to work with for a franchise operation. So there's 175 things. It's its own business. Right. So looking at it and understanding it and also treating it as though it's its own business, right? So then you also have to create marketing information. You have to somehow get the word out there. You have to
getting a lot more text messages lately about some pizzas you have every week now.
So
nice.
Another thing, right? So another thing is I have to now look at my 2-store business as a 100 store unit, business. And I have to probably take on a few more expenses than the normal 2-store business because I want to make sure and create an opportunity for somebody to step into the fold here with our business, with our brand, and be able to, on day one, start running rather than crawling and walking, eventually running, and take out some of that learning curve. So for me, it's about making sure that our loyalty program is a loyalty program that's being used by a local company that's growing a lot, or not a local company, but a company that's franchising a lot. Pliables use the exact same loyalty program that we use. Well, they have a couple hundred locations and they're going crazy and they do a phenomenal job. So if I can use my learnings from them and say, okay, well, what are they doing? What are they doing that's working? And constantly trying to figure out, all those items. There are times when, as a store operator, I want to bring in a new item or a new product. And I say, operationally, that is going to be difficult if I have a franchisee. So I have to now not only think about myself, I have to think about other people. Even though I don't actually have any franchise locations yet, I want people to know, hey, this is not Rick looking out for Rick. This is Oak Craft Pizza looking to build a brand that can grow and continue consistency, create a lifestyle for somebody else that they can be proud of, an investment for somebody else that they can be proud of, because it's not now there's 3 locations. It's a small brand. It's a unit level, smaller brand with a great growth potential that you don't need to learn something new every single day to get to that growth potential.
Yeah.
It's all here in place. So at 2 locations, we've just invested in video training, right? So we're now recording every step of our operations and giving that to, again, our 2 locations, but also as it grows to the next levels, and basically putting in place right now everything that Dunkin', Crumble, these places have in place, and treating it as though it's a larger business than what it currently is, because it needs to get there.
Yeah, 100%. And if I wanted to get into the business, right, O'Craft as a franchisee, could I right now? And then what would be some of the things you would say to a franchisee, like, hey, this is why you should do business with us, be a franchisee of O'Craft compared to Blaze or some of these other national chains that have a large footprint already?
Right. So yes, you can get into it right away. You can visit us at ocraftpizzafranchising.com or just ocraftpizza.com and kind of explore a little bit more about our brand there, and reach out to us through the form on the ocraftpizzafranchising.com website. And number 2 is, you have an opportunity right now, especially in the New England region. Our brand is new, but it's getting a lot of recognition for being quality. It's getting a lot of recognition for, I'm getting asked every day, when are you coming to Manchester, for instance? When are you coming to Bedford? When are you coming to Portsmouth? Or have you thought of going to Concord? Have you thought of going to Maine? Have you gone into Vermont yet? What are you looking at in Massachusetts?
Gotta look at Maine. I'm telling you, we've been up there so many times, and we've been looking for the O'Craft.
Forget Vermont. You don't want to open in Vermont. I'm telling you right now. Just forget Vermont. Vermont's a lost cause.
So,
back to you, Rick.
Just along, those lines. So what, I'm looking for and saying to people is, find a partner that wants to create that business, because it is an opportunity for anybody who wants to go into it. To Jason's point here, Maine's a great location. I think Jason's a great franchisee.
Jason, let's freaking do it.
In there, dude.
So there's so yes, you're able to get in now. Digress a little, but you're able to get in now. You're able to get kind of first to market in a lot of these areas and grow. And what we've found is a lot of people come into our business and they go, oh, I've never seen anything like this before. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that something like this existed. And so it's now's a great time to get in, and there's unlimited growth potential. You can, build 1 store today and see if you want to get to 10, or you could say to me, hey, I want to own 5 of these. Let's create a plan for you that works, and partner with, even if you need financing. I've started that process, right? Partnering with local banks that can now look at it and say, okay, well, again, I've only been in business for 2.5 years. However, you have financials that make sense for us to be able to back somebody who would want to come in, as long as they come with the right, information.
For sure. What would it cost for like a franchise? Oh, perfect.
So I just pulled some stuff up, and I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this unless somebody signs the FDD. So just say no if you can't. I know it's on the website, but what if I'm looking to get into a franchise right now? If I'm looking at O'Craft, because I got to be honest with you, there's many times I talk to Jason like, this would be a good spot for O'Craft. But so obviously there's a franchise fee. We know that there's always a franchise fee for a license. That's per unit, correct? Per location?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And then the minimal investment, at least that we see on the website, is $283,550. Are you thinking that's construction and everything, or is that equipment? Like, does that include FFE, or where are you guys thinking for that?
So that at a minimum, yes, it would include everything, right? So your construction and your FFE. So basically, you find to be very transparent. Our first location we built in less than that, but we took an old restaurant, and it was 2 years ago. Inflation, things change. Yeah. So when we look at things, and our second location was far higher than that. So
this is obviously the average of those two, I'm assuming.
That is a little on the lower end. Sure. Yeah, so that's a minimum, right? So there's, again, full FDD has more information and all of that stuff. So
request info, people, because this is good stuff. And then obviously royalty fees 5%, and then local marketing is 2%. And the local marketing is going to be obviously utilized by the franchisor to that specific unit, or are you going to eventually do regional? Or how are you guys thinking about doing that?
Exactly. So right now it's going to be focused on growing your unit, growing your business. You also will have an expectation that you'll spend some money marketing as well, so that you can grow your business that you've made a substantial investment in. You're also, the other piece to this, on top of the finance part is, you'll have me, right? So you go open a Crumble Cookie right now. You're not going to have the guy who founded the company come out and work.
Jason McGowan?
So
No.
You open a Dunkin', the guy who founded the company hasn't been around for, a long, long time.
That's why I would say the earlier you get on, especially a franchise like this, to be able to get to know the founder, to be able to learn from that type of an individual is a we talk about this all the time. The relationship that you learn with the people from the beginning, those owners, those founders, there's nothing like that. And then throwing or wasting that relationship is useless. And so it's like, I totally agree with you. The fact that somebody's going to have Rick to be able to come in their store, teach them, train their team, their staff, however you have that training program, that's priceless. That's way more expensive and way more valuable than $35K, in my opinion.
Exactly.
But don't raise your fee.
No.
Yeah. Until we get in.
That's not. Yeah. And honestly, taking one step back even from that, and I think that's the whole thing for me. And if there's one way to kind of connect some of the stuff we talked about earlier, whether it be college or all that stuff, when I got into this business, my goal was to help people grow that had an excitement about finding their passion, or had an excitement about growing a business, right? And I know that's very similar to you guys. I mean, we've spent some time talking,
Some late nights
working out the back door, right? Both of us sitting there, actually in the rain,
What the figure we doing with our lives?
Talking good, talking bad, just trying to figure things out.
I was coming back from Vermont that night.
You were, and Vermont was about to open, or just had opened, or something, and you could see the exhaustion, but you could also see that there was a passion and a willing to put in the energy and put in the work to make it work. And our goal has always been to try to find people who are like-minded, who want to create an opportunity for themselves, for their family, and are willing to put in the energy to do that. Yeah. So we want to help those people have an avenue to create it. And we've had a good amount of interest. And it's going to be one of those things that when it happens and somebody experiences it, I think they're going to say, okay, now my cousins want to get in. Now my brother wants to get in, because it is going to have the opportunity.
Do you have some people that are interested in operating and maybe don't have the capital, or do you have people that are just curious in general?
It's tough to say. I haven't had those deep conversations with outside of, are you interested in running a franchise? What are you looking to do? Right. What is your plan? Do you plan on running it day to day, or do you plan on having a management team come in and run it? I've had very baseline conversations on that, but I think there are people who would be open to that for sure.
Now, how are you pushing out to the public that you are franchising? What's your just for people listening and.
Yeah, so we did some press releases on some of the larger franchise kind of websites and things. We've done some ads. We've done some social media posts and things like that. Yep. A lot of our hope is that, hope's the wrong word. A lot of our plan and structure is I want people who are my customers today to come in, experience it, see it for themselves. Totally. And then they'll see a sign that says, hey, we are now offering franchises. So they come in and say, okay, let me hear a little bit more about this, right? And so that's been our number one way of finding people who are interested is through that kind of word of mouth and experiencing it for themselves, seeing, oh, wow, the pizza did come out in 3 minutes. He's not making this stuff up. Right, it's not BS, oh, wow, it is pretty in here. We're not making this stuff up. They are focused on consistency. The operations are simple. This is not made up, right? So that has been our biggest catalyst is people come in and say, wow, this is cool. How do I get in?
I mean, we're pretty big critics. I got to be honest.
Yeah, we're usually pretty.
I texted you directly when we were in Florida. I said, Rick, this is a decent pizza place.
What was that place? H1 or
you knew about it, didn't you? In Miami.
I have done too much research on pizza, so I know
stuff. But it was good. It was very interesting. One of the biggest things we thought about was it's actually a really great, simple way to get Google reviews. But when we looked at it, it had like 1,000 Google or something crazy. And what they did at the end of the meal is they just handed us
a business card with a QR code.
With a QR code to do a Google review. I was like, that's incredible. And as soon as you scanned it, it took them right to their site to just leave a review.
But they had wait staff like that.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. Yeah, different feel, different vibe.
It was like
for sure.
hybrid.
You ain't getting in and out in 3 minutes.
No, it's more of a sit. I mean, you could to go, but it was more of a sit down.
Yeah.
And that was the vibe. But it had a similar vibe to what you're going on. But I love that you said your model is simple from a franchising standpoint.
Right.
And you have to have simplicity. I know there's a lot of complexity to it, obviously. But from an operational standpoint, and the space that you've designed is very clean and very aesthetically appeasing, not over the top, but I love the way it looks. And then the pizza, to be honest, is the best pizza I've had in New England. I live out west, and you and I have talked. There's more of that style out west, but I have not found another concept around here that's anywhere like that.
I appreciate that.
And I've never tried Blaze, and I don't think
I just like
I have, and it's just not the same. You know what?
Yeah,
it's funny because I've always tried to figure out why I like Oak Craft so much better, and every time I'm in my head, I'm like, there's just something more fresh about it.
Well, that's
and now I know they're out back crushing tomatoes from Italy.
Please tell me they have their shoes on at least.
Do you guys make your own? Do you make your own wine too?
But it was just funny because I was like, it's something about it.
It's
just tastes more fresh than other places.
The sauce is really good.
And
the
that's
dough.
Why,
I
you
love
guys
the
pay
dough.
attention to those details. And on a franchisor side, like I think that's great because you're taking into consideration the quality and like the complications. Because as you're franchising and so many people are coming in, like if it's too complicated, that quality goes away.
Right.
And we've seen that. But to keep it simple and to really pay attention to like the smaller details and say, nope, we have to grow this on a larger scale. How do we keep it simple, keep really great quality, so we know that's not going to get ruined or diluted as you kind of expand. So I love that you're paying attention to all those small details because
and that matters. That matters a ton as a franchisee. I mean, we have so many pain points, and you've probably seen them in Duncan's too. It's like, listen, franchisor, do you pay attention to anything we tell you? We're telling you this isn't working. We're telling you we're losing money, yet you're not listening. Right. And so I think that's one big thing is as you grow and you scale, putting the right, and I'm sure you're thinking about this already, but putting the right barriers in place to say, okay, let me stop and let me think and let me see, is this operationally working and so on. But yeah, we see, I mean, the fact that you're thinking about that, you're talking about doing it with the 2 stores that corporate owns is huge because if I'm a franchisee looking into this, hearing what you're saying, like that's ringing a bell for me. Like, that's great. That's important that you understand this might be a great product, but if it operationally sucks and isn't going to work, it may not make sense to do it for the franchise as a whole. So,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I'm doing it every single day. So I know what your pain points are before you know what they are. So I can work out some of those. Even our menu, if you walk into our store, we have a certain number of slots up there, right? And so we have 12 that are committed to pizza. And then we are only going as big as what we have left up there. So we want to keep salads on there. So, okay, that's a couple of those tiles up there. And we want to keep our meatballs, which are, by the way, the best product on our menu that doesn't get enough.
I don't know if I've tasted those.
It's on the website, though. I keep seeing it rotate.
I just saw you
keep
scroll
seeing
through.
it. You get a good picture of the meatballs.
It doesn't get as much love as it deserves, but, that's something that we've...
Toast is about to.
The toasts are very good, right?
Toast is good.
I've never had the toast.
So in those...
The ricotta toast.
Right on there, we're limited to what we can or can't do. We're rolling out a catering menu like any day. No, we're talking full size pizzas, but maybe a larger salad option so that people, different. Yep. So like a small, medium, large party type of catering option. So, some of that lunch business or those areas that you think, hey, are we in enough offices right now? Probably not. Right. Is that a good way for us to get our brand out there? Is that a good way to create another revenue stream for our business? There are other things that I could talk about a little more off
Absolutely.
off air.
Let's get this off recording real quick.
Yeah, and that we're working on to build our brand recognition as well. So it's just one of those things that I think it's an exciting time to be in Oak Craft Pizza, and it's an exciting time to be in business, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that.
Because there's so much opportunity, and people need not be afraid of everything they hear about. Oh, the labor market. Oh,
interest rates. Oh,
yeah. It exists. It's real. But if we only listen to the negative, you never get any positive, right? So
in your basement.
I think. Yeah, exactly.
We could careful with the basement. We could digress. We could digress on that.
We are in a basement
for another 2 hours. All right, so
hold on. I have one more question. It's just important. So with technology really being on like everyone's mind right now, I had a question about like how is Oak Craft, maybe or maybe not, like looking ahead with technology, and I don't know if you have an app or not, but I read a really cool stat that I think like all of like 50 or 60% of Black Friday shopping all took place on your mobile phone. We see that that's really the way people are spending money and moving for speed. So how is Oak Craft like maybe paying attention to that momentum and integrating technology and to-go and mobile ordering and apps?
Right.
Like that.
So when we first opened, I'd say about 6 months in, we got an app just for the sake of having an app. And then 2 months ago, we revamped what we were doing, and we rolled out a new app, a new online ordering system, a new loyalty program. It's far more customizable, far more, James likes barbecue chicken pizzas.
Yeah,
so it's going to recognize, it's going to recognize that he orders from a certain category.
Yeah.
It's going to recognize how much does James spend on an average visit.
Nice.
Okay, so he usually spends, let's call it $15.
Yeah.
How do we get him to spend $25? Well, maybe if we give him a $3 coupon the next time he comes in off of $25, now we get him $22.
Love it.
Now he's ordering those meatballs that we talked about.
There we go.
He tried the meatballs. He loves the meatballs. Now he's coming in. He's spending $25 every time he comes in, right? So we're using technology in that sense on a mobile kind of online ordering, those kind of things. We have in our Salem location, we've built it for that kind of on the go experience a little better than even we had in Nashua. I think there's still room to grow our in-store dining, our in-restaurant dining a little better, and I think our next footprint will be slightly larger than the ones that we have now. But we have a countertop that you'd walk in and you'd say, "Oh, this is a beautiful countertop," and it's heated. So it holds our pizzas. So when people come in, they don't have to have a colder pizza. They don't have. So you order that on that mobile app. You are running 10 minutes late. Your pizza's still going to be hot. You're not going to have to worry about, I'm running late. Can they reheat it? No, it's there. It's ready for you. And then technology on another level. I mean, we have machines that help us stretch our dough. We have an oven that rotates so that it's a little easier to cook and get the consistency you want out of the pizza. Do you still need a little bit of skilled labor to make sure that pizza comes out the way you want it? Of course. Yeah. However, it's far less than you would normally need. We, again, off the record, we're looking into a little bit of...
This is on the record, by the way.
You have to cut it out.
You're still recording.
On the record, off the record, for the record.
Don't listen.
Don't listen. We are... in the early stages of looking into what can technology do to help us build our pizzas
Please tell me robots.
So we're looking into that option and different ways that would be of value in our current footprint, different ways that could be of value in a larger footprint. What does that cost look like?
Yeah, totally.
What does that save?
Right.
That's very interesting. That to me, that is a really interesting
Crumble's
factor.
talked about it too.
They've definitely talked, but in the labor market, bad, good, however you want to look at it, that will help, regardless. And so the fact that you're just thinking about it is huge. And obviously it's probably really, really early stages, and it's going to take a really long time to figure out maybe what you need, but to be thinking about it.
But business owners should be thinking about how to integrate technology. It's just being smart.
Right. And along those lines, again, I want to make sure that if somebody's going to come into the brand that I'm creating, that they can trust that the research that the hard work is being done for them, so that when the opportunity comes to them, it's available, and it may not be mandatory. It may be an option. It may not be an option yet,
Right.
but at some point when it is, the kind of work has been done ahead of time
Totally.
because it's been done by somebody who cares more than anyone in the world that it's done correctly.
The owner. Yeah.
Okay, couple quick questions. We're definitely going on some time here, which hopefully we're all set. Last question on the franchisor side. If I'm a franchisee, one of the big questions I'm going to ask is, am I going to make money? So in the FDD, what's is there an average ROI or net that you have in there that you could share?
You will have to spend some time in the FDD to get all the information. I just don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to, but you will make money.
Read the FDD.
Read the FDD, people.
Read it.
Email Rick and give him your info, and he'll send that over. Okay, last couple like fire questions at you. Like in business, what's one of your favorite books that you've read or like listened to? If you have, like, what book made a big impact?
So one more on a personal finance level, The Richest Man in Babylon, really good book. And then I would say more recently, Atomic Habits, just focusing on that. The last one I'll say is Tim Ferriss, who has a really great podcast and interviews just the best people in the world at the best things, has released a couple of large kind of catalogs of the people he's interviewed. And so when I'm looking for a little motivation, or I'm looking for something that I know I'm not finding internally, I'll open up and I'll just read from one of those people who are the best in the world at what they do and get a little bit of drive, a little motivation. So those are, I can't remember the name, Titans, but I can't remember.
Tools of Titans, excellent. Okay. Thank you, John.
John, marketing guy coming in strong.
Strong, dude. Turn that camera on yourself, man. Yeah. I love it. Okay, podcast. Must listen to podcast. It can't be ours. I know you're very faithful with our podcast and you listen to it every time it comes out. But besides us.
I am. I listen to the Iced Coffee Hour. Again, somebody who...
With Stefan... What's his name?
You're going to quiz me and I'm not...
No, it's fine. I know who you're talking about. He's with Ryan Pinedo.
Yeah. I haven't listened
Iced
to him,
Coffee
but I've
Hour.
heard good things.
Yeah. So he again talks to the best people in the world at what they do and dive into all different things, business, politics, etc. And so that's one that I like. And then I always listen to Smart Pizza Marketing because it's a pizza specific podcast. And guy Bruce Irving, who's on the podcast, even before I was getting into the business, I learned a lot from listening to him and the people who he brings on, who are just usually small business owners like us who are trying to navigate the world of the pizza business. Yeah. And it's really interesting to see what they're accomplishing and how they're, working around the things that they come up against.
Love it. Final question for me is, if you had a choice, would you do everything all over again the same way you did it from the beginning?
Yes. Awesome. That's a simple answer.
Yes. I love it. Cool. Any other questions, guys, before we wrap up?
Go get some Oak-Craft pizza.
Yeah, I know we're going to be going by there this afternoon, so there's a good chance we'll be crushing one.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
well, listen, thank you for listening to the Maguire Enterprise Podcast. Again, Rick, tell everybody where they can just follow the brand and get more information on the franchise if they're interested.
Yep. So oakcraftpizza.com, at oakcraftpizza on all the socials. And if you are interested in franchising at oakcraftpizza.com, shoot me an email and we'll get the conversation started and see what we can make work.
Awesome. We love this guy. We love his pizza. Thank you again for listening. We'll catch you guys on the next one.